Hi, students. So today we would be doing a series on watercolors, and it's important to understand that before you think of any medium, it can be watercolors, it can be dry pastels, or it can be oil pastels, pencils. There are certain fundamentals that you really need to be aware of, and once you're aware of those fundamentals, it's much more easy to move into any medium. Okay, so the fundamental that you want to be aware of is something called as contour, okay, and something called as grid lines. So if you are aware of these two things, then irrespective of whatever medium that you're doing, the medium is not the concern. The medium can be watercolor, the medium can be oil pastel. All of them apply the same rules. So it's more, I would say, more advantage if you understand this contour and grid lines, and along with that, you need to understand how light works. So if you understand these three parts, then it's much easier for you to use any medium. So in this session, we are just going to be covering on these high level fundamentals, which is understanding contours, grid lines, and light. So let me give you an output how it looks like. So this is how you can be shabby about it, but then this is the contour that gives a overall definition of what is the object about, and these are the grid lines. Okay, so you don't need to be very specific, but you just need to know that there are grid lines which exist, and this is how good artists are able to imagine that in their mind. So why do we need this? So let's take a quick example. So if I take a object, let's say I'm trying to draw something like a pier, okay, and when I draw a pier and I just go about drawing it, you know in this form. So now this is a shape, okay, and the shape unfortunately will not have any definition of a light and shadow. So for example, if I had to like make this into color, I'm just going to make this way. So it ends here. There is nothing more that you can do about it, and there is nothing more that you will know what values of watercolors can we use. So it ends here. So that is the challenge. So when you start using contour lines, so the contour lines are something which are moving in the perspective direction. So this is something which we will cover as we get into the details. So if you think of this box, there are certain lines which are going in these direction, and these are very simple lines that you want to be aware of. So now when I am drawing this, you can see that it's touching these lines and then it is going in this direction. Okay, so let me probably do it in another grid. It's much easier that way for the sake of clarity. So I'm again drawing this for you guys. So there is a box, and then again there is this huge box which you need to be aware of. And now if you see, these lines would move in this direction, and these lines would move in this direction, and then they would go down. So this is something that you need to be creating in your mind, because unless you create this in your mind, it's not going to be. So this is again parallel to this, parallel to this is again parallel. So this is parallel, 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 and once you create this, now the underlining inside pure object is inside this grid box. So you can draw something which is moving in this direction. So you see this line is going this, you see this line, it's going this way, this way, this way, this way. This line is going this way, this way, this way. This line is going this way, this way, this way, this way. So now if I remove the grids, I had to do it. Okay. So now if without the grids I had to do, I'm just doing it for the last time again here. Sorry for this. Okay, so this is the box. So now you see that this is the grid line. So if you see, actually it's not a time taking activity, it's a very simple activity wherein you can quickly draw these grid boxes. So this is parallel to this is parallel to this is parallel, this is parallel, this is parallel, this is parallel. Now if I take another layer, you want this to move in the same direction. So you see this, I'm moving in the and then this I'm moving in the parallel direction, and then I'm going inside because this object goes inside. So similarly I'm going this way, this way. So now if I remove the grid, I am able to draw something like this. Okay, so these lines, which are called the whisper lines, or you can think of it like construction lines, are the most important piece where you want to be. So this again I am drawing this way. You can see this line is parallel, so I'm going this way. This line is parallel, this, so I'm going this way. So these are nothing but perspective lines which is actually going in those direction, and we are ending within the contour of the object. So if I remove this, okay, I'm drawing within this, I'm drawing within this. So let me rub this part. Okay, I'm just drawing this. Okay, I'm just drawing this again. So if you see, I am able to draw this sort of contour lines now. That is exactly what I have done over here. If you see this, this is called the contour line. So now the second part that you want to understand is there is a source of light which you want to be very clear. So this is, let's say, the source of light. Now the source of light is actually a perpendicular direction light. So when the perpendicular direction light is moving, this whole part, okay, will receive the maximum light. So the way you want to take them is you want to create this as the first value. So we will be doing 7 values. So we have, these amount of values. So I'm calling it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is the value which will take the maximum amount of sunlight. Okay, once this is taken, then you will move to the core shadow. So this is the core shadow. So this you want to do a cross hatching where it's a little more darker, because the shade of this, or the value of this, is higher than this. Now this part which is actually behind, it's actually getting some reflected light from the sides. So you want to have something again like these sort of image lines, but this is a little darker in value than this. So if this is 1, let's start from here. If this is 3, this is 2, and this is 1. Okay, and now there will be something called as 0, which is the highlight. So you want to leave some space wherein you want to rub it up, because these are the places where there is a certain highlight coming in. The reason is there is a specular object, there will be some reflection where the lights will not stay at all. So let's say this is a little specular light. And then after that you have something called as this, which is the cast shadow, where the object itself falls a certain amount of light. Okay, so this is probably the 4th one. And this is the occluded shadow where you will have the two objects touching each other and there is almost negligible amount of light going in. So this is a very fundamental understanding of how you want to break down the grid of it. So let me quickly go through it again as a summary so that it's easier for all of us. So if you see a pier, we first draw it as a shape. Okay, so this is a shape. But then it's not enough just for the shapes to happen. You want a form. So to get a form, you need to use the perspective grid lines. And that's how good painters are able to draw and paint. So you see all these parallel lines now. This is parallel line here. And similarly parallel lines to this. And then similarly parallel lines to this. Okay, and then this where it meets, you need to drag it down. Okay, so now this has a certain amount of form. So let's say if I had to draw a cube, I would draw the cube like this. Okay, so you can see that there is a cube here which is getting formed. Right, and now if this is at the bottom is bigger, then you will form a bigger cube like this. So I'm just marking the inside part of it, and this is probably getting connected like this. Okay, and then there is internally this part is getting connected there. Okay, now you can see that the pier is actually inside this particular, if you see this, it's got a conical shape, and then this is how the whole form comes up. So you see these are all individual shapes which are something that you need to see, not just the first contour line, but these are all individual shapes which are coming up. So this is how the artists are able to see. Now this is a little lighter one, so I'm going a little lighter because that's the sun area. So you see that there is now suddenly a shape getting formed here. So see, there is a shape here, there is a shape here, 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 shape here. Shape here, shape here, shape here, shape here, shape here. So now this is how it looks. So without this, it's going to be like this. So do you see the difference, like this and then this? So once you understand this, and then once we understand that there is a light source coming from here, then we know that this part is probably the twos of it. The two is because that is getting the maximum amount of light, and these are the threes of it, and this is probably the four of it if it's not receiving any light. And then there is this cast shadow which is the 5, and then there is this which is the 6. So unless you are able to break down in this numbering format, it's not going to be easy no matter what medium you use for you to really understand whether you are able to paint it as per a form. Okay, so the form is dependent on creating. So when an artist is doing this, he is able to visualize those blocks, he is able to see all these forms, and then he is able to create them, and then he is able to create these sort of shapes which is inside it, because he is able to see that rectangular 3D perspective which is sitting inside it. And now once you get this, so let's take a quick look into how we can create them. So because it's coming from here, I am making this lighter, then this is probably much darker, and this again is darker, lighter. This is probably maybe a little more lighter, because there is a reflection light coming there. And then okay, and then there's a certain amount of specular light that you want to bring, so you're bringing that specular light here. Bringing some specular light here. Now the below part is little darker here, and then you want to create certain cast shadows. So I'm doing some cast shadow here, and then there is an occult shadow here. I think it's way too dark, so let me take something which is okay. And I like a little mixed medium, so I try to this side where the light is not available, and again this side where the light is not available, and then this brown where you want to create, and then again there is a little darker shadow there. Okay, so yes, this I think will make it a little more darker. Okay, so that's how you want to approach it, where before you get here you really want to understand these numbering systems. Otherwise what you're going to end up is you're just going to end up in a very flat, as I told earlier, without these grid lines, it's going to be a very flat image, which is this, which is not you want to land up in. Okay students, so let's get into watercolors the right way with understanding the foundation of it. I think foundation is very important for us to get into any medium, so that's how we really want to plan this up. So the foundation, as I told, let me see where it was. The foundation is about these things. If the foundation is about contour lines, is one thing that you want to understand, and then you want to understand the grid lines, and then you want to understand the important part. So contour line is those lines, and then grid lines is this. The grid lines are based on perspective and then the light source. Okay, guys. So let's get started on the right way. So these are the, so you can draw anything. These are the contour lines, then these are the grid lines. To get the grid lines you need to know perspective lines, and then you need to know the light and source. Okay, so let's catch up again in the next class.